Frank Herbert ended Dune with Paul Atreides triumphant, his enemies crushed, and his Fremen loved Chani standing loyally at his side. Denis Villeneuve ended Part 2 with Chani turning her back on Paul and riding into the deep desert alone in protest. That is not a tweak. It rewrites the spine of the entire story. Where Herbert wrote a victory, Villeneuve filmed a warning. Here's how Part 2 reshaped the novel's ending, what it kept, and what it sacrificed to do it. Start with what Villeneuve treats as untouchable, because the big swerves only land because the skeleton stays loyal. Jessica drinks the water of life, transmutes the poison, and becomes a Reverend Mother almost exactly as written. Paul passes the Sandrider test, summoning and mounting a colossal grandfather worm in one of the most faithful sequences in either film. His own water of life ordeal, the death-like coma, and the awakening come straight off the page. And the climax holds. The family atomics breach the shield wall, and Paul beats Feyd-Rautha in a brutal knife duel before the Emperor kneels. The bones are Herbert's. It is the muscle and the heart that Villeneuve rebuilt. And the part he rebuilt most is Chani. In the novel, she is a devout believer who accepts her place, supports Paul's rise, and stays beside him even when he takes Princess Irulan as a political wife. The film reinvents her as a fierce, secular skeptic who distrusts the prophecy from the start and sees exactly how it is being used to control her people. So when Paul embraces the Messiah myth and seizes the throne, the movie's Chani does what the book's Chani never would. She refuses to bow, walks away, and rides into the desert alone. It is the single biggest change in either film, and it turns Paul's triumph into a personal tragedy. Her doubt becomes the audience's compass, the one character who refuses to be swept up in the prophecy. Herbert's reader cheers the new emperor. Villeneuve's audience watches the woman he loved leave in disgust. That rewrite serves a larger one, how the film frames Paul himself. Herbert always meant Paul as a cautionary figure, but he buried the warning in dense interior monologue and appendices that most readers blew right past. Villeneuve drags it into the open. He externalizes Paul's corruption through Chani's horrified eyes and through Paul's own slow surrender to the role of Lisan al-Gaib, the prophesied Messiah. The book trusts you to notice the Savior is dangerous. The film makes absolutely sure you cannot miss it. To make that manipulation visible, the film invents a divide that is not in the book, North against South. Villeneuve splits the Fremen into skeptical Northerners, who doubt the prophecy, and fundamentalist Southerners, who fervently believe it. It is a clean piece of screenwriting. It gives the Bene Gesserit's planted legends a real battleground, and lets the film argue about faith and fanaticism out loud through Stilgar's devotion and Chani's doubt. The novel keeps that tension internal. The film turns it into geography you can see. Lady Jessica is the engine of that manipulation, and the film gives her far more to do than the page does. Once the water of life makes her a Reverend Mother, she travels south and becomes a believer turned propagandist, fanning the fundamentalist faith in the Lisan al-Gaib. Village by village, she hardens the legend that will carry her son to the throne. And she does it in constant telepathic communion with her unborn daughter Alia, the two of them scheming from inside one body. The novel lets Jessica wrestle with this role privately. The film turns her into an active, unsettling architect of the Holy War. The deepest structural surgery is to time itself. The novel unfolds across several years. The film compresses everything into less than 9 months. That single decision forces a cascade. Lady Jessica stays pregnant for the entire movie, and Alia, who in the book is a walking, talking toddler with a fully adult mind, shrinks to a telepathic voice speaking from inside the womb. It is an eerie and effective choice, but it costs the saga one of its strangest, most unsettling characters. That compression also erases an entire tragedy: the baby. In the book, Paul and Chani have a son during the time jump, Leto II. When the Emperor's forces raid the Sietch, that infant is killed. It is the private wound that hardens Paul for his final march on the throne. The film removes the child completely, so Paul's last campaign loses the personal grief that drives it in the novel and becomes a colder, more political conquest. One change settles a death that readers have argued over for 60 years. In the novel, it is not Paul who kills Baron Harkonnen. It is the toddler, Aaliyah, who corners her grandfather and finishes him with a poisoned Gamjabar needle. The film hands that kill to Paul, who runs the Baron through with a blade and names him grandfather as he dies. It is a cleaner hero beat, but it quietly drops one of the book's most shocking images, a murderous child assassinating a Baron. Not everything was trimmed. Feyd-Rautha was expanded. The book gives him a gladiatorial birthday arena where he slaughters drugged, doomed slaves. The film keeps the arena, but reforges it into that unforgettable black and white spectacle on Giedi Prime, and pits him against undrugged Atreides survivors to prove he is genuinely lethal. It builds him into a credible final threat, which pays off in the closing knife duel with Paul. This is the rare case where the adaptation adds rather than subtracts, and the story is stronger for it. Gurney Halleck also gets a bigger job. The book reunites Paul with Gurney during a smuggler raid on a spice harvester, and the film keeps that beat. But the movie invents a pivotal new one. Gurney leads Paul to a hidden stockpile of Atreides family atomics. Those warheads become the key that breaches the shield wall and breaks the final battle open. It is an efficient way to give Gurney real tactical weight and to make the climax feel earned instead of purely mystical. A couple of smaller threads were rerouted entirely. Thufir Hawat-the Atreides Mentat survives the first film in the book and spends the second secretly manipulated by the Harkonnens before a redemptive death. The film cuts him out completely and streamlines the villain's ranks. And Princess Irulan, who in the novel only steps on stage in the final chapter, is threaded through the film from the start, narrating and watching from the Imperial Court. It gives the Emperor's side a face and a point of view long before the ending arrives. Before we reach the verdict, which of these rewrites do you think made the film better, and which one went too far? Tell me in the comments. So here is what Villeneuve actually did to Herbert's ending. He took a novel that reads like a hero's rise and filmed it as a hero's fall, using Chani as the conscience the book kept locked inside Paul's head. He compressed years into months, traded a murderous toddler and a dead infant for a tighter, colder march to the throne, and split the Fremen in two so you could watch faith curdle into fanaticism. The book asks you to admire Paul and slowly realize your mistake. The film makes you watch someone he loves realize it for you. So did Villeneuve betray the book, or did he finally say out loud what it was always trying to tell you? If you want to know which adaptations get it right and which ones lose the plot, subscribe. We break down a new book versus movie every week. And drop a comment. Was changing Chani's ending Villeneuve's boldest move or his biggest mistake?